Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon when you are watching this video lecture. In the earlier session, in relation to chapter 3, unit 2 of business economics, which is related to the theory of cost, we discussed about some of the basic cost concepts and very important distinction between accounting costs and economic costs, same way accounting profits and economic profits. Also, the distinction between outlay costs and opportunity costs, which is once again nothing but explicit and implicit costs. Let us continue this classification or terminology related aspects in relation to different types of costs. So another classification can be direct costs or traceable costs, or indirect costs are non-traceable costs. So on a broader basis, direct cost, indirect cost, traceable cost or non-traceable cost. More popular words are direct costs and indirect costs. What are direct costs? Naturally, as the name indicates, which have a direct relationship with a component of operations, naturally something like manufacturing of a product or organizing of a process or any activity like rendering of any services, etc. The costs which have a direct relationship with the core manufacturing or with the core operations are called as direct costs. And these are related to the product, process or machine, and naturally they will change according to the changes occurring to the product, processes or machines. They are identified, and the same way they are easily traceable to a particular product, operation, plant, machine, service, etc. So these direct costs are those which can be easily tracked and traced into a product. Let us simply take a product. That is easiest way of understanding it. Let us say manufacturing of sugar. Manufacturing of sugar requires sugar cane definitely as a raw material. So while the sugar is manufactured, out of the total cost of production of the sugar, how much is the cost of input, that is sugar cane? Can it be identified or not? Definitely yes. Same way, if you just take, let us say, manufacture of a pen. In that, what is the raw material required? Let us say plastic was used for that. How much of plastic would be required to manufacture a pen? Is it already known? Definitely yes, because the production processes are standardized. So, in order to manufacture a pen, how much will be the material cost? Will be known. It is traceable. In order to identify the cost of production, for example, of a cool drink like Coca-Cola, one bottle, how much it will cost to manufacture one bottle of Coca-Cola is known. In that, what is the cost of material is traceable. Cost of material can be easily identified with the overall cost of production. So materials being a example here, like this, the labor cost, which is direct labor once again, or other direct expenses which are involved in the manufacturing process. These are all traceable costs which can be identified with the particular product. And how much is the cost of production of that product includes these direct costs which are already known. Let us say, just for example, once again, a bottle of Coca-Cola requires, let us say, some 300 ml of water and some grams of sugar and certain amount of carbon dioxide and some other components of their own secret recipe. But all of them, how much they are all required to be mixed, how much they have to be used for manufacturing one bottle of Coca-Cola, they know it already. That is not going to change from bottle to bottle. It is going to be same. So imagine the total cost of production of whatever this bottle of Coca-Cola is that will include certain component of all these ingredients put together. Say, for example, all of them put together are costing 3 rupees per bottle. Example I'm telling. I don't know how much it costs. Practically for any company, nobody knows how much it costs. That is a secret, confidential information. That is not a public information. So we are taking an example, understand that. So if 3 rupees is the cost of materials and all other ingredients used for manufacturing of Coca-Cola, can we track that 3 rupees to this one bottle? Definitely yes. But on the other side, the same company Coca-Cola has a CEO, CFO, marketing manager, so many people are there who are all working in office, including some receptionist working in their office boys, etc., etc. So many people are there to whom salaries are paid. Let us say accountant or the chief financial officer of Coca-Cola India is also paid hefty amount of salary. But the point is, can we know how much of accountant's salary is also included in the cost of one bottle of Coca-Cola? That will be difficult because it cannot be traced, identified to a particular product. So what we can call here, the cost of materials which is used in the manufacture of one bottle of Coca-Cola can be called as a direct cost, but the CFO salary or accountant salary or the receptionist salary or some other cost, Coca-Cola head office has lot of expenses. It might have furniture, it might have depreciation on that furniture, electricity bill, air conditioned offices, lot of expenses will be incurred. But how much of that expenses is possible to be traced into one bottle of Coca-Cola? You cannot track it. But one bottle of Coca-Cola costs 3 rupees of materials, that is tracked, that is known. So if it is possible to be identified, then such costs are called direct costs. If it is not possible to be identified, those are also costs. Those also will be incurred by everybody. But they may not be direct costs. Okay, so that's what direct costs mean. Indirect costs are those which cannot be tracked. Indirect costs are also popularly called as overheads. So in general, because the topic has come, though it is not relevant at this level, which we will definitely discuss at later levels of costing, in general, any organization will have 3 types of costs called as elements of cost. One is material cost, 2 is labor cost, third one is overhead costs. In this, generally the material cost, if it is identifiable, that is called as direct material cost. If it is not possible to be identified, it is called indirect material cost, which is again forming part of overheads. If it is possible to be identified, the worker who is working in the factory of Coca-Cola, how much time he will work in order to manufacture so many bottles, so per bottle how much time it takes and what is his hourly payment. If all these calculations are done, the wages paid to the worker who is working to manufacture this bottle of Coca-Cola can be identified with the per bottle cost of Coca-Cola. But once again, the watchman who is there in the factory gate or the security officer who is who is having surveillance over the CCTV cameras of the factory and office, their salaries cannot be tracked with production, but they are also paid. That is also labor, but that is not direct labor. Like we took example earlier, all the salaries of the people who are in office, like receptionists, accountants, human resource managers, marketing people, sales people, top management like CEO, CFO, CTO, etc. All those people are also paid salaries, but those are not tracked. Those cannot be traced with, they cannot be identified with the output. So all of them will be called indirect labor. Once again, which means overheads. So direct material, direct labor, these are the 2 major direct expenses that any organization will incur. Anything that is not direct, of course there may be some other direct expenses also, we don't need to know all the details of them. That is what we will do in costing later. But in general, Majorly, what will be the expenses? You take any organization, you will see this only. For example, you take a jewelry shop. What will be the biggest cost for him? Is it the shop rent, which is a huge showroom and all? Yes, it is also expenditure. Is it the furniture that he has put and all the lighting, chandeliers, glittering furniture, interior? It is also important. But is it the biggest cost for them? Definitely not. Biggest cost for them is gold itself. The material itself is the biggest cost. So, for many traders, definitely materials will be the biggest cost. If they are just buying and selling, that itself will be the biggest cost. Labor will be there, but they are not adding any value. They are only selling them. But for a manufacturer also, certain types of goods, in fact, most of the types of goods will have highest component of direct material cost, but a lesser component, but still important component of direct labor cost. Overheads will also be there, but major component will be definitely material cost. So whatever the product we are using, which is a tangible product, majorly what will be the cost in that? Majorly it will be material cost. But is it the same for all? Definitely not necessarily. For example, the same example of Coca-Cola if you take, the material component may be very less. Maybe the total cost of bottle, just for example, say 10 rupees, sold at let us say 15 rupees, 5 rupees profit is made by retailer. But prior to that, it has crossed so many levels. So what will be the major cost for companies like Coca-Cola? Will it be direct material cost? The sugar and some black colored material and carbon dioxide and water is not going to cost that much. Definitely not. There will be direct material cost, but that will be lesser component. Mostly what will be their expenditure? Advertisement expenditure, huge amount. Definitely, that is overheads, selling overheads that is. Same way, storage is the biggest expenditure for them. They have to store. Transportation is the biggest expenditure for them, because these have to be bottled somewhere and they have to be shifted to nook and corner of the country. I mean, if you just go to any village, maybe whether drinking water is available or not in that village is doubtful. But Coca-Cola bottle is definitely available in that village. That much of distribution network they have developed over a period of time. And that cost, it is not coming free. Those are the overhead costs mostly they will have. That is the nature of that business. Like for example, you take a software company. What material cost they will have? Negligible. Bank. What material cost they will have? Negligible, because of the service sector. But what will be the major cost for them? Labor and overheads, which are their staff. So, irrespective of the nature of the organization, any organization will have material, labor and overhead costs for sure. Then, within these material costs and labor cost or other expenses, if we can identify those costs, we can trace them to the particular production process, then those are called direct costs. If they are not traceable, those are called indirect cost, right? So that is what is the broad understanding of direct and indirect cost is. We are not going to do any of this classification here in this level, so we don't need to break our heads. How do I know whether it is a direct cost or indirect cost? Common sense judgment will be enough. Can it be traced directly or not? So is it an expenditure which is related to the production directly or not? That can be the checkpoint, if at all such a need comes to classify them. But once again, as I said, more detailed understanding of these things will be required at later levels, not particularly now. So direct costs are those which can be identified or traceable with the production process. Indirect costs are those which are not visibly traceable to specific goods, services or operations. Then how to do allocation of all these indirect costs to the production? There is a big chapter called overheads in costing, group 1 of CA intermediate. Then we will see that how to do it and all. At this level, all that we need to know is, yes, there are certain costs which are traceable. There are certain costs which are not directly traceable to a product. Traceable does not mean they are all secret. Don't think in that way. But we cannot identify. Same example as we have taken. For a particular bottle of Coca-Cola, material cost is 3 rupees. standard, guaranteed. Any bottle will have the same material cost. But for a particular bottle of Coca-Cola, how much was CFO's salary component included in that cost? That is not possible to be traced directly. So those are indirect costs. Some of the other indirect costs can be something like power or common costs incurred for general operation of business, benefiting all the products jointly. Something like, as I told, the security guard at the factory, watchman at the factory. The same factory might be producing 100 different products. But how much you can trace the salary of that watchman to each product? Difficult. That is why common costs, which are incurred for all the products jointly, those are all not possible to be traced directly with the output. Those can be called as indirect costs, simply called as overheads also. Yeah, there is unnecessary statements given here, like overhead costs can be direct also, depending upon the department. All these statements, instead of increasing the clarity, they try to create confusion. So I would say, earlier also I said, unnecessary things, if they are there, we have to just ignore them. We have to just get over them, that's all. How is it possible that overhead cost also can be direct? That is a question, yes, when he says overhead cost also can be direct. But that is the other's point here, not the technical point. So we should not unnecessarily get into the, I would say, wrong directional items. What is correct, what is known, what is technically the classification of direct and indirect cost, there we should stop. That's it. So 2 points we understood here. One is the costs can be broadly classified into direct and indirect costs, and any organization will have 3 elements of costs called as materials cost, labor cost, and overhead costs. Enough. That is enough. Next one is incremental costs and sunk costs. Once again, these are all terminology related things. None of these things going to be applied by us at this level. Be aware of that. We only have to know the names and what do they mean. That's it. Basic things. Just like basic definition of certain item. Terminology, that's all. Vocabulary, nothing more. But the names themselves will indicate here what is the nature of them. Incremental costs. Incremental cost means what? The additional cost incurred by a firm as a result of a business decision. That's what is incremental cost. So if a decision is taken, what additional cost might be incurred as a result of taking that decision, that will be called as incremental cost. Let us say if it takes a decision of changing its product line, or if it wants to take a decision of replacing the old machinery, or to buy a new production facility, or to acquire a new set of clients. Like these examples, any decision actually, these are only examples. Like these businesses have to take hundreds of decisions. Any of such decisions definitely result in some additional cost. How much is that additional cost is called as incremental cost. So what is the importance of this incremental cost? Simply, once again, it goes back to cost benefit analysis. The logic is always the same. That is cost benefit analysis. Any decision will be taken, any decision, on the basis of cost benefit analysis. If benefits are more than costs, definitely that is a good decision. If costs are more than benefits, that is a bad decision. So the underlying logic is always simple, nothing complex in that. But the process of actually taking the decisions is complex in real life, not for us. So incremental costs, when we say, naturally they have to be compared with incremental benefits of taking a decision, and naturally a decision will be taken if the incremental benefits are more than incremental costs. For that purpose, incremental costs can be useful for decision making. That's it. Then there was another word called sunk costs. Actually, there is no relationship between incremental costs and sunk costs. Why they are a pair here? There is no reason for it. Just some words, that's all. Direct and indirect, at least they are opposite with each other. We can understand. We can say there is a contrast between economic costs and accounting costs. Yes, as a combination, we can understand that. Explicit, implicit costs as a combination and opposites, we can understand that. Direct, indirect, opposites, we can understand that, which is okay. But incremental cost and sunk costs are not having any direct relationship at all. Both are completely different. But if at all there is any difference or any kind of relationship, it is this. What is that? Just now, as we understood, incremental costs are useful for decision making process, decisions, whereas sunk costs are not useful for decision making process. In other words, incremental costs are relevant for decision making, sunk costs are irrelevant for decision making. Neither are we going to make any decisions, nor are we going to consider any of the incremental costs or sunk costs at this level. But what we are trying to understand here is, what does the incremental cost term mean? Sunk cost means what? That only we are looking at. So these two are completely different situations. What is opposite between them is, incremental costs are relevant for decision making, sunk costs are not relevant for decision making. That's it. But what are sunk costs? First of all, those costs which are already incurred once and for all and cannot be recovered. Sunk costs are those which are already incurred once for all, done, and they cannot be recovered. So that is another concept which is important for decision making purposes. Yesterday we discussed about opportunity costs. That is also very important for decision making purposes. When we take decisions, not only the costing, not only the management level decisions, even in personal life also, if we can consider the concept of opportunity cost, decision making would be better. Same way, if we can consider the concept of sunk cost and ignore the sunk costs, then the decision would be much better. What are the sunk costs? Which are already incurred in the past and done. They are already done, sunk, done and dusted. Now we cannot try to recover, or we cannot recover those costs which are already incurred. So which are already committed, and they cannot be revised also, they cannot be reversed also, done. Even if we want to do so, we cannot reverse or revise these sunk costs. For example, whatever the expenditure incurred on advertising or research and development or any other specialized equipments or fixed facilities like railway lines. Examples these are, which are already incurred, done. Now you cannot reverse them. Advertisement, already you have incurred crores and crores of expenditure. Now you cannot say, I should not have incurred that much expenditure. You cannot reverse that, over. So same way, research and development or other fixed infrastructural related expenses which are incurred. Once they are incurred, they are incurred. They should not be considered for decision making purposes. And they do act as an important barrier for the firms to enter into the businesses. Why do they act as barriers? Because they might have already incurred a lot of cost and they would like to recover that. And what is the mistake they do in that process is, they ignore. These are sunk costs. They cannot be recovered. And starting a business or not starting a business should not be based on the sunk cost. But normal common human beings will have the same tendency of always carrying all these costs cumulatively. For example, let us say a decision has to be taken by a student whether to continue with a particular course or not, whether to join a particular course or not, let us say. If we consider the entire costs incurred in the past from LKG, UKG to 10th or 12th standard and say that already I have incurred lakhs and lakhs of rupees on education, now I have to recover that quickly. I cannot spend any more. If that is affordability issue, it is a different story. But if it is because we already incurred a lot of expenditure, we are taking a decision of not incurring the expenditure anymore, which is like a barrier to enter into a course, enter into a particular course, is a wrong decision. What should be the right ideology or methodology of thought? Sunk costs are sunk costs. Whatever was incurred in the past is past, done. You cannot take that into consideration for decision making purposes. Now what is the additional cost you are going to incur? Now what is the additional benefit you are going to get? That should be the consideration point. Incremental costs, incremental benefits only should be considered for decision making purposes. Sunk costs are not to be considered for decision making purposes. This is some practical psychological barrier that will be always there. For example, sometimes, let us say a particular student goes to an academy and for whatever reasons does not qualify or does not pass the examination what he or she intends to pass. But they have already paid thousands of rupees of fees there. That means a lot of cost has already been incurred. So just taking a simple example, somebody joined the CA Foundation somewhere and could not clear the exams. Already they incurred some expenditure in coaching. Now for whatever reasons they thought somehow the earlier experience was not good. Now we have to join a better place, and they have come to another place for joining coaching. What will be the first point they will tell? Sir, already we have incurred a lot of expenditure on this. We cannot incur anymore. But what are they doing? Unnecessarily bringing sunk cost into consideration. It should not be considered. It is done. Wrong, bad, good, whatever happened, happened. That cannot be considered for decision making. Simple point, decision making is about future, not about the past. Now onwards, what you will get, how much additional cost you will incur and how much additional benefit you get is what people have to think, rather than looking at the past. And already so much of expenditure is already incurred, so I have to recover it quickly. That is the wrong thought process. Naturally, that will lead to wrong decisions. That is the reason sometimes we observe people take decisions, though possible to be affording, like free or discount offer for education. We are talking. This is not a product. This is not something I'll offer at a discount or something like that. That itself is a wrong thought process, because people's weakness is there. So some people will try to definitely encash that. And why people's weakness is there? Because in the back of the mind they think already they have incurred so much of expenditure on the education. So now I don't want to incur much of expenditure on education, but I want all the benefits that this education gives me. We want incremental benefit, but we don't want to incur incremental cost. Because we are always thinking that already all the costs which I have incurred also part of my costs, which is true. But what we don't realize is those are sunk costs. So while taking decisions, especially those who understand these terms in this field, at least we have to keep these things in mind. Sunk costs should be ignored for decision making purposes. Opportunity costs should be considered for decision making purposes. And incremental costs and incremental benefits should be considered for decision making purposes. And this is applicable for big decisions in the organizations also. A small decision whether to buy a television or not also. Same thing. So every decision can have this application of the concepts of these sunk cost, incremental cost and benefit, or opportunity cost. Another classic example for sunk cost can be taken like, let us say a business. Let us take a business example. Say a business is proposing to start its new operations in a new country, it will not just like that start. What it will do is it will appoint consultants. Huge fees, remuneration, fees has to be paid to them. Big consultants will be there to do this feasibility studies. They will do market feasibility, technical feasibility, financial feasibility, social, other factors, all these things they will consider, and they will finally give a huge report to the company which is intending to start a new business. And that company would have already paid hefty amount of fees to these consultants. Let us say some 5 crores rupees they have paid already to the consultants for conducting this study. Now, if the company thinks, because already we have incurred 5 crores of expenditure in this project, let us go ahead with this project, because somehow I have to recover that 5 crores. If they think like that, they are gone, because they are considering sunk cost for decision making. They should not have considered. What they should consider, forget about that 5 crores, it is gone. After the report is given, what the businessman has to think is future. Whether this project, if I start this new business, will it give me better benefits in future than the costs that I am going to incur in future? Not that I will recover all my past costs. Not possible. That is not going to happen. That should not be the idea. Whereas a weakness of human beings will be always, once again, driving them to consider the sunk costs also. So they become a barrier to entry for firms into business. That's a psychological weakness. If they just ignore the sunk costs, definitely that will be a better decision making process. That's what professionals do. That's what big businesses who appoint professionals do. Now, other kind of classification is historical cost and replacement cost. Name itself indicates, and this can be useful even in accounts also. Historical cost means whatever the cost we have really paid for acquisition of a particular asset. How much you paid for buying a machine, or how much you paid for buying a car or building or any other asset like that. That is historical cost. Let us say a company has purchased a machine for 10 crores rupees. That is historical cost. Normally, historical cost is recorded in the books of accounts. Normally, yes. But replacement cost is not real. If at all the company would like to replace the existing asset with a new asset, if it wants to replace, how much cost it is supposed to be incurring? How much cost it might incur to replace this asset? That is replacement cost. For example, let us say we have purchased a television for 40,000 rupees. That is historical cost. Now, if you want to buy the same model television, maybe it is available in the market for 30,000 only. That is replacement cost. These two are not same. Whether replacement cost will be higher than historical cost or not, that depends upon the instability in the prices of various products in the market, because of which these two costs will differ. Replacement cost could be different from historical cost because some time has passed by already when you purchased the asset, and now when you are looking at what could be the replacement cost of this asset. So usually when there is an increase in price, naturally the replacement cost will be higher than historical cost. When there was a decrease in price in the market, like in our example of television, the replacement cost would be lower than historical cost. That's it. There is no great technicality in this. It is a simple commonsensical word. Historical cost, what you have already paid for purchase of an asset. Replacement cost, how much you might have to pay if you want to purchase the same asset now. That is replacement cost. Simple. Then we have private costs and social costs. Like once again, earlier also we discussed private capital, social capital. Logic is similar. Private cost means what? Which are incurred by the firms, means organizations, businesses, including everybody, individuals, partnership firms, companies, all the organizations are incurring some expenditure, whether explicit or implicit doesn't matter, but those are all private costs. And those are all included, those are all calculated, those are all accounted for, those are all used for business decisions. Yes, those are private costs, and they are part of the total cost of a product or service, and we can call these things as internalized costs. Internal costs, that is private costs. Like for example, in the earlier Coca-Cola example, whatever the total cost of manufacturing and selling a bottle of Coca-Cola could be private cost. In our example, we took as 10 rupees, let us say. 10 rupees is the total cost. Maybe they are selling at 15 rupees, 5 rupees profit they are making, example. So what was the 10 rupees? Private cost. Now, are they also internalizing the social cost here? No. Social cost is different. Social cost is the total cost borne by the society on account of a business activity. So this includes private cost anyway, and plus external cost also. External cost means which we cannot see and quantify a lot of times, but still there will be external cost. For example, the same Coca-Cola might be using very powerful motors to bring the groundwater up, and using and sucking all the groundwater for its purpose of manufacturing of cool drink. It is doing that already. But how much it costs to do it, whatever that motor depreciation is, and whatever the electricity bill of that, or if there is any river nearby, what is the cost of channeling that water into the factory, that will be the private cost, which is already known to the company, which is accounted for, in the sense at least recorded, internalized by the company. But because of this activity, where the cool drink manufacturer is sucking out all the groundwater, adjacent to this factory may be thousands of acres of land, the farmers might not be getting sufficient groundwater. Their crop might not be giving a proper return to them. Maybe they are not getting water at all, those crops are all dried up because of this. Example, once again, I am not telling any exact stories what I have seen. But yes, this is reality also. Because of this, a lot of loss happened to the society in the form of the cultivators' loss in production of agricultural produce. But who will account for it? Who will pay for it? Will Coca-Cola pay for it? No. So what that cost is, that is external cost. That is not private cost. That can be called as social cost. Let us extend this further in the same example. Yes, there are millions of people who are drinking Coca-Cola. Doctors say that it is not good. Over a period of time, somebody has drank so much of this cool drink, and because of that, stopped functioning or spoiled. They got spoiled, let us say, because of a sustained consumption of this Coca-Cola or any other carbonated drink. See, only we are taking as an example, not that Pepsi is something else and Coca-Cola is something else. Any carbonated drink is not good, doctors say that. But some people, definitely a lot of people, nobody is exception. We all drink just like that. But over a period of time, we get sick and we go to doctors and we incur thousands of rupees of medical expenditure because of that. Who is going to pay for that? Is Coca-Cola going to pay? Pepsi going to pay? Are the companies going to pay for that? No, they will not pay. Will they include this social cost also? How much social cost would have been there like this? Because of the medical expenditure of the consumers of Coca-Cola or any other carbonated drinks. Over decades of time, how much damage it would have caused to the health of the people. If you consider America as an example, it would have brought millions of people into diabetic conditions over a period of time. And Coca-Cola will not consider them as costs because it is not their private cost. It is a social cost. That is why it is called not an internal cost. It is an external cost. So what is the total social cost? We can say private cost anyway is there, already known. Plus the external cost also will be there, where the business is somehow causing some damage to the society. What is the damage? This example we have taken. Like this, so many things are there. Pollution is a social cost. Damage it does to the atmosphere, rivers, roadways, etc. These are all costs. Like air, water and environment pollution is an external cost. But companies don't pay for that. So there is a different story. Throughout the world, environmentalists argue that companies should be made paying for these external costs that they are causing. That's a different discussion altogether. And once again, this discussion will come in Economics for Finance Group 2 of CA Intermediate. Then we will understand how these external costs also can be included for the purpose of pricing, or for the purpose of, I would say, internalizing them for business decisions. Who will do that? Companies will not do that. Naturally, government has to do that. In a simple example, if you say smoking, for example, causes a lot of social costs, no doubt. In fact, whatever the private cost of actually manufacturing the tobacco products is very less, but the selling price is still very high. Why is that? Because the government, in the form of higher taxes and duties on such products, would like to try to make the external cost that it causes to be internalized as part of the cost of that product. So what is this highest possible excise duties and other taxes on the tobacco products? What do they represent? Is government's effort to internalize the external costs. That is one way of doing it. There are other ways also. We'll discuss them at later levels. But now, imagine if tobacco products are sold really at normal, without any taxes and all, real cost of manufacturing, whatever it could be, it would be much, much lesser than what at price they are sold now. Don't think it is all their profit. No. There will be profit, but huge amount of that will be also going to government. Same way, we definitely have problem in petrol and diesel prices going up daily. Yes, there are definitely arguments about this is causing a lot of I would say inconvenience to the middle class, burden, etc., etc. It will add to inflation. All these arguments are there by economists anyway. That's fine, keep it apart. But is the core idea of petrol and diesel causing more air pollution correct or not? Definitely yes. So the point is, whatever the additional cost that petrol and diesel have over and above the private cost. Private cost is what? Basically whatever is the cost of manufacturing them. Taking down from the earth, we get crude oil, then refining that, transporting, all these are private costs really incurred by our, let us say, Indian Oil Corporation, HPCL, BPCL, or Reliance, or SR. All these companies incur private costs in converting the crude oil into petrol and diesel and selling them to the customers. All of them are private costs which are all known. Let us say if it really is taken, petrol should be available for, inclusive of all profits, 30 to 35 rupees now per liter. But in the market it is much higher, 70, 80, like that it is, depending upon the state. What is the difference? That is the government's taxes, central government's taxes and state government taxes. So government is looting us? Definitely yes, it looks like. But theory I am telling, behind this will be not just, of course government would definitely like to take more revenue. That is the nature of any government. But there is another aspect to this. The petrol and diesel, as they are used mostly for the transportation, which is road transportation, and the usage of petrol and diesel will cause more air pollution. What kind of social cost that it will create, the consumption of petrol and diesel? It is enormous. too much of social cost it will definitely create, but how much is that? Nobody can quantify. Who will bear that? Public will bear that, society will bear that. Rather than that, now what is happening? The government is trying to internalize those costs which are actually external costs. Still, is it going to do that 100% of? Not possible, because we cannot quantify social cost first of all. But there is social cost, yes. So what it does? It will levy heavy amounts of taxes and duties on them, so that the price of this petrol and diesel is higher. Not that the price is higher so people will stop transporting or people will stop traveling. No. But will it definitely add like a little bit of impediment on the people's psychology to travel more than required or not? Definitely yes. Will it little bit reduce the social cost or not? Yes. So the taxes are a kind of way where the social costs, which are actually external costs, will get internalized in the total cost of the product itself. So when you go to the petrol bunk, you will tell 78 rupees, 80 rupees, whatever. But you think that is a private cost. No. It looks like private cost. Actual private cost in that would be only 30, 40 rupees. Remaining is government's taxes. And why government's taxes are there? Yes, for earning revenue, one part. And second part is also there for internalizing the external costs. It will levy higher taxes. And that is why the taxes will be high on those products where the external costs that they generate, the social problems that they generate are high. Petrol, diesel cause pollution. Smoking causes tremendous health damage. Same way, carbonated drinks will cause tremendous health damage over a period of time. Alcoholic beverages will cause a lot of damage over a period of time. These are all dangerous, injurious to health, not good. Generally, these are all called sin goods. So, that is a general name given to them. Luxury cars and all. Yeah, they can afford to pay. So, what the government will do in all these things, they will try to levy higher taxes so that they can internalize the external cost that it might cause. So, that is the difference between private costs and social costs. So, social cost is nothing but private cost plus external cost. Private cost is only internal cost. That's it. That is the classification of private and social costs. Then there is a classification of fixed and variable costs, where we have a same classification of a fixed, variable, semi-variable, semi-fixed, etc. In the next topic of discussion, it is anyway there. So there is no point of repeating it once again. However, at a broader level, just let us quickly go through this fixed and variable cost classification. Name itself indicates, of course, yes. What are fixed costs? Simply speaking, fixed costs are those which will not vary with output. If your output is 1000 tons, 1500 tons, 2000 tons, fixed cost will not vary, it is same. Of course, within a certain level of capacity or activity. If a particular factory has, say, annually manufacturing 5000 tons of certain product, if it is manufacturing 3000 tons only, it will have some fixed costs. Tomorrow it has better orders from some customers and it starts manufacturing 4000 tons. Will the fixed cost increase because of that? No. For example, the factory rent that they pay, they will not increase because of the level of activity. Whether you produce or don't produce, whether there is an activity or no activity, you have to pay the rent. That is the biggest problem, definitely. Particularly if you see this current period of lockdown, like education institutions like ours. We have to pay rent. There is no activity actually going on in the academy. It's all happening virtually. There is a huge facility which is vacant, empty. Can we say to our owner, sir, anyway we are not using, we will not pay rent? Will he agree? No. He will not agree. He may postpone. He may say, okay, no problem, little bit of relaxation compared to normal deadlines. Because of the relationship, there may be a little bit of flexibility in the payment, but payment has to be done. That is fixed cost. Level of activity 0 also payment has to be done. Let us say the academy is full of students. Every bench is occupied. Full capacity it is running. Still the same rent. Then a owner cannot come and ask, because we have got more students, give me more rent. No. Whatever is agreed, that has to be paid. 0 level of activity also. Whatever the level of activity, whatever the output, if it is a manufacturing organization, the fixed cost will remain constant. They don't change. That is example, like property taxes. For example, like interest on loans. These are all fixed costs. Irrespective of output, they remain constant. Depreciation is a separate concept altogether. If we consider it as a function of time but not output, then it can be fixed cost also, because depreciation is something which can be calculated different ways. Normally it can be calculated time basis only. Let us say a particular asset is purchased at 10 lakhs rupees and it has a life of 5 years. Each year we can provide a depreciation of 2 lakhs rupees on a general basis. Understandable example. Then that is also fixed. Whether you produce or don't produce, the 2 lakhs is not going to change. But if you are providing depreciation on the basis of actual usage of the asset, then that is different. Then that becomes variable. Once again, we don't have to worry about each and every example of fixed and variable costs. What we should definitely be focusing on is concept of fixed and variable cost. Fixed costs are constant. They will not change even though there is a change in the output. That's it. Or is it going to be like this forever? No, sir, definitely not. In our example, a factory with a capacity of 5,000 tons has to pay some factory rent. Yes, it is a fixed cost. It has to pay to the watchman. Yes, it is a fixed cost. There are costs like that which they have to pay irrespective of whether there is output or not. Irrespective of the level of activity of the operations, they have to pay that. So 3,000 tons they manufacture, still the fixed cost is same. 4,000 tons they manufacture, still the fixed cost is same. 5,000 tons fully capacity they manufacture, still the fixed cost is same. But the point is, if they want to manufacture 6,000 tons, can they do that with the same fixed cost? Answer is no, because the machinery is not enough. They have to buy new machinery. That means depreciation will increase accordingly. So the point is, they are a function of capacity. Within a capacity only they are fixed. Within a capacity, not permanently. Fixed cost does not mean eternally they will be fixed. No, eternally they are not fixed. If the plant or any organization is working within the capacity, then within that capacity the fixed cost will not vary along with output. That is fixed costs. General understanding of fixed cost is that. Of course, these are unavoidable. They have to be paid. Even if the operations are completely closed down also, the fixed cost has to be incurred. That is the nature of them. So what you can call them, inescapable, whatever names you give, ultimately yes. Uncontrollable, we cannot control them because already have committed them. Sometimes these are called committed costs also. Different names, but logic is same. Because these are to be incurred even if, let us say, the operations are suspended. Currently the same thing. Now operations are not closed down for say educational institutions, but they are suspended for a temporary period of time. Still these costs will continue to be incurred. No option. So even if it is shut down also, some costs will have to be incurred for a certain period of time, not for long period of time. If there are any such costs, those are called shutdown costs. Shutdown costs means those which will be required to be incurred even though there is no operation at all, even though the plant is completely shut down, the factory is shut down, still they have to be incurred. For example, they have old machines in the factory, they shut down the plant. There are a lot of micro, small and medium enterprises, MSMEs have been shut down in the past 5 to 8 years, let us say. A lot of small enterprises have been shut down. They shut down does not mean they can sell everything on OLX in one day. Not possible. That will take a lot of time to sell the old machines in the market. Till that time they have to pay the factory rent, right? Because their machines are lying there only. Till the time some other buyer comes and buys these machines, they have to be still paying the factory rent. Means without operations also they have to still incur those costs. That is why those are called shutdown costs. And some of the costs, like advertising for example, which are generally having a fixed budget by the organizations, they are called programmed fixed costs or discretionary costs. These names are important, concept is important. Further details are not that important. Programmed fixed cost means already you have agreed. Let us say a particular company enters into a contract of advertising with a news channel, and the news channel will keep on relaying the advertisement. Company has to pay money to the news channel. That is programmed already. That is agreed, contracted. But these are also called discretionary expenses. Why? Because factory rent is not discretionary. You have to pay it whether there is factory or not, or whether there is production or not. But advertisement is the discretion of the management. Whether to spend or not is the discretion of the management always. If they want to spend, they will spend. Don't want to spend, they don't spend. For example, Champs, we don't spend on advertisement. That is our discretion. We don't want to spend on advertisement. There will be some other academies which want to spend on advertisement, but still they don't pay their staff. That is their discretion. So the point is, advertisement expenditure is certain type of expenditure which is discretion of the management. They decide whether to spend it or not. But once they have decided, once it is programmed, they are also fixed costs. So that is an example of discretionary expenses. A lot of discretionary expenses can be there in addition to advertising. For example, research and development. Research and development is a very popular discretionary expenditure because a lot of companies will not spend on research and development if the overall profits are not really encouraging. So research and development, staff training. Training is one of the common expenses which the companies will incur, and that is also discretionary expenditure. If in the periods of recession or where the business is not doing well, what the companies will do, they will cut this R&D, training, advertisement, like this. Some costs are discretionary. A lot of companies will have entertainment expenditure. Staff will be going with to parties and all that, different places, excursions. These can be cut in the bad times. If in the good times, they can be spent. There is a discretion of the management. Then you may say everything is discretion of management only. No, everything is not discretion of management. If you have staff, you have to pay salary to the employees. That is your responsibility. If anybody doesn't do that, that is a bad management. That cannot be called as discretion of the management. Not paying salaries to employees is not discretion of the management. That is a bad management. Same way, not paying expenses of the suppliers of materials is not discretion. That is bad management. Not paying the committed costs where you have already agreed that I will pay, but then you failed it. That is bad management. That is not a discretion of the management. So understand the difference. A lot of times people, in the sense, businessmen who think they are businessmen, will have this, I would say, conflict of understanding discretionary costs and committed costs. What they will think? Committed costs are anyway committed, so I will pay tomorrow if not today. Discretionary cost is my discretion, so I will take the discretionary cost today. That is absolutely wrong management. That is not a correct way of doing businesses in the entire world. The better practices, common sense. Even if you ask a small kid, they know. You should have stopped the discretionary spending, but you should have spent for committed costs. That's what we should do. For example, at your home now, during this bad phase of life and other experiences, let us say, just for example, we decide that we are going to buy new clothes rather than paying our housemaid though the housemaid is not coming and working, who has been working with us for say some years, but now because of health reasons or restrictions from the government or the building society, housemaid is not coming to work. I know a lot of people are not paying them. They think that is discretionary. No, that is not discretionary. That you should have paid them because there was a commitment. Though there was no contract in writing, offer letter, job, housemaid or servant signed it, nothing like that. But that is a social obligation. Anybody with a little bit of compassion would not stop that. What they would stop? Buying of new clothes at this time, buying new gadgets in this time. That is discretionary. That you can postpone also for some time, no problem. But that is the point. Most of the cases, some people don't understand what is the priority. So why I am telling all this in detail is at least you understand the terms what we are talking about and the importance of them, not only for costing, even in real life. Should we only consider the accounting costs or explicit costs or outlay costs? No, we should know also, yes, there would be implicit costs, opportunity costs, or economic costs, which include explicit and implicit costs. We should know that. Direct and indirect is more of a technical thing that may not be applicable for us in real life decisions. That is purely a classification issue, accounting issue, you can say, which can be done even later also. But other things are useful every way, every walk of life. These are all important aspects in decision making, not only economics, not only costing. For every walk of life, any decision you take, if you consider sunk cost, that is a wrong decision. If you don't consider incremental costs and benefits, that is a wrong decision. If you don't consider opportunity cost, that is a wrong decision. That is not correct. Same way, historical costs and replacement costs also have to be looked at. That is only for accounting purposes once again. Private and social cost is very important to understand. Otherwise, what happens? We tend to only look at private cost without looking at the damage that it costs or causes to the society. That is a basic problem. Let us say, if we are thinking buying a mask is say a few hundreds of rupees, by not wearing a mask I am saving that private cost, but how much social cost you are causing, that we cannot imagine. We don't know that, we cannot quantify that. So that is the point. The known people, knowledgeable people can identify those which cannot be identified by normal people also. That is why we are trying to learn these things at a higher level, which is even at a life related decision making also can be done by using these concepts of cost, different types of costs. Fixed and variable once again is a basic accounting classification, but conceptually also it is very important to understand certain costs are fixed, committed, unescapable, we cannot escape them, and they don't change within a level of capacity along with production or output levels. And fixed costs can be also called as sometimes inescapable costs, uncontrollable costs. Some of the fixed costs are programmed fixed costs like advertising, which are committed already. Some of the costs are discretionary fixed costs. That is depends upon whether the management wants to spend or not. That is about fixed and variable costs. Now coming to variable costs, naturally the other things, those which are a function of output in the production period. In other words, they will vary along with the production. For example, if you want to produce more, definitely you need more laborers. Naturally, that will cause higher wages cost of laborers. Same way, if you want to produce more, you need more raw material. That will definitely cost higher cost of raw materials, like that. So these variable costs are going to vary in line with the output. So if the output is increasing, along with that variable costs also will increase. If output is decreasing, along with that variable costs also will decrease, right? But they are definitely related directly with the output. But are they proportionately always? No, not necessarily. Sometimes proportionately, sometimes not proportionately related with output. For example, if output increases by 20%, variable cost also increases by 20%, then we can say they are directly proportionately related with output. In some cases, it may not happen like that. They may not be proportionately changing with the output. We'll see that how it happens in the coming paragraphs of discussion in this chapter. But what we should know now is definitely variable costs are directly related with output. More the output, more the variable costs. Less the output, less the variable costs. But sometimes they may be even proportionately varying with the output. In the same proportion as the output increases or decreases, variable cost also may increase or decrease in the same proportion. Sometimes they may not be varying proportionately, depending upon many factors in the production process. That's it. That is about classification of costs, various terminology related to cost, the concepts of cost, we can say. Once again, this is not really that important or that useful only for the foundation level of examination. Yes, there will be some questions definitely from this, particularly the economic and accounting costs, and other classification and terminology related questions will be there. But more than that, why we took so much of time for this is, we need to have clarity on these terms and we need to understand the concepts of all these things, not only for economics, even for next levels in chartered accountancy. Not only in chartered accountancy, sometimes even in life, for decision making purposes, these concepts will be useful. So the concept of sunk cost, incremental cost, opportunity cost, discretionary cost, committed cost, these are all important aspects to be known to us as students in finance. So that is why this classification of costs into different categories is more important than it just looks like from examination point of view. So don't just take it in that way. It is beyond that. Anyway, coming to this cost theory actually, which is this core chapter, we have to discuss the technicalities of the cost theory or the theory of cost, which we'll do in the next session, including the cost function and identifying short-run tendencies of costs first. Then we will also identify long-run tendencies of cost later. So like the theories of production, here in the theory of cost also we have two different segments of theories. One is a short run, another one is long run. In the next session, we will discuss about the cost function, something like production function. Now we have cost function, and also the short run theories of cost, how they work in the short run, how the cost will behave in the short run. We'll observe that in the next session. Till then, take care. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.